Welcome back, everyone, to the Culture Base podcast. I'm your host, Dustin. He's Blake, and we are the Culture Base. We're so excited to be back with you. This is Thanksgiving week. I would just love to say before we get into this, thank y'all so much for listening. This is episode 20 for us. We're starting a brand new thing today. We're so pumped to roll it out to you. Maybe a little bit longer of an episode. So if you need to break it up or maybe listen to it in line on Black Friday, whatever it takes, we're just thankful that y'all are listening, thankful that y'all are contributing to the conversation. We love hearing from you and the stories that you're sharing with us about the content as well. So today, actually, we're going to get into a brand new thing. Like I said, we're going to get into a podcast series. And so we're going to spend the next 6 episodes, really it'll take us through the end of the year, talking about something that is pretty vital. It's a kind of a cornerstone to what we do here at the Culture Base, and that's the 6 building blocks of scalable teams. And so we believe that there are 6 blocks. There's kind of 3 sections within those blocks. We're going to kind of talk about that here as we continue. But the very first building block we're going to get into today is vision. Cannot wait to talk vision with y'all today. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and build scalable teams. To get them there, you can find us at theculturebase.com. You can log on there and get a free 30-minute strategy session with us. Anything that we're talking about, any of these 6 building blocks you want to discuss, this is where we really kind of dig into the meat of what we're doing. And so culturebase.com, click on the strategy button, and we would love to chat with you for free for a 30-minute strategy session. Also, you can find us at the Culture Base, BASE. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places like that. Come have a conversation with us about the topics that we're discussing. If you are listening to this, again, thank you so much for listening. We're glad that you're here. Would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and review. That really helps this content go further. We've been seeing our audience numbers grow, so thank you for doing that. And then if you're watching on YouTube, hello there. Good to see you. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. Cheers. We raise our coffee cups to you.
To you.
To you and to you.
To you and your loved ones.
To you and your loved ones on this merry eve of Thanksgiving.
Yes. Week. Are you a big Thanksgiving guy?
I love Thanksgiving.
Yeah. It's my favorite. I like it more than Christmas.
It's really close for me. It's really close for me. The two are neck and neck. Turkey neck and neck. Ooh. Anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe or like, subscribe, and ring the bell. It's in that order or else it doesn't count. If you ring the bell first, it doesn't work. I'm just kidding. Actually, I think it doesn't work. You have to subscribe before you can ring the bell. You can like it at any time. It doesn't really matter. But we would encourage you to do that. Also helps us get this content further. Thanksgiving. Yes,
I love that you're like, I'm not done, Blake. I've got more to say before we can just dig into Thanksgiving.
I love Thanksgiving. I love the fact that it's a holiday completely centered around eating, whereas all other holidays happen to have food. So I do appreciate that. I do like to experiment, but this year we're going super traditional. We're hanging out with my amazing in-laws at the beach in the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Nice.
For a few days for Thanksgiving. So I'm super pumped about that. And so, yeah, as this is coming out, we are heading up there right now as you're hearing this. Awesome. So
that's great.
Yeah, super pumped about that. We're just going super traditional with the meal this year, the menu.
That's great. Yeah, I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite week of the year. I take more time off for Thanksgiving than I do for Christmas. Ooh. And I'm like, the love languages.
I do.
So love languages, one of the love languages is gifts. And that is my least. Like, it's like, don't get this guy anything unless it comes from the heart only. Like that's what the saying literally says when I took the test.
Okay.
I didn't do that, but I like it because it's a completely anticipatory holiday. You know what I mean? Like it starts the anticipation of building towards something else. And so like I love the Christmas season, and then Christmas Day, you're like, okay, yeah, it's Christmas. But like everything building up to it is so much fun.
It's way better than the actual day.
Yeah, it is. And so like it kind of is that start. Like we watch the parade, we wake up early, we stay in our PJs almost all day. Like Lindsay makes this amazing like tea ring or cinnamon rolls that like all from scratch.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It is great. And football's on. And it is like, it's just whether it's in the background, it doesn't even matter. You're just hanging out, doing a puzzle with your kids, and the game's on. It's just
you just need to hear Joe Buck's voice at some point.
That's it. That's all you need.
That's all I'm talking about. I love it, man. Yeah. Thanksgiving is great. It is great. It's so good. So today we're going to talk about vision. We're going to get into this 6-part series on building the building blocks of scalable teams, 6 building blocks of scalable teams. And we're going to start off with vision. So it's been said, excuse me, that without vision, the people perish, Blake.
Yep.
You know that feeling, right? Everybody knows that feeling. You understand that without a clear, compelling vision, your efforts don't stand a chance. So why do we so easily forget this each day? Like we kind of, it's a 1-year thing. It's maybe a quarterly thing, but we forget to kind of live it out each day. How do we stop making this just a sexy phrase on our walls and start making it live and breathe daily in our organizations, Blake?
My company recently had our strategic offsite, and we hadn't had one in a while. And I think what was so neat about it, like it wasn't we did anything like novel or brand new or anything like that, but it was a day to get back together with our team. And the thing I saw come out of it was that everyone felt like they fit again. Like they had comfort. Like there is this, we gain stress and discomfort when we don't know how we fit into something, right? Or we don't know how things are supposed to work together. And so we had our executive offsite, and when we did that, it was just like everything clicked. We came back to the vision. We still had like, hey, here's what we're going to do here in 10 years. But it was cool because we had so much more clarity to say, you know what, I don't think this should be part of our vision. Here's why. And we kind of went through it and worked through it. And vision's just so much more important than we know it to be until we see it click like that. And I think that's what a lot of visionaries miss out on, is they get that clicking because it's all up in their heads, right? Like how many company visionaries have a vision? All of them, virtually all of them have a vision. But how many of those visions get out of that visionary's head and make it to the team? Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. And recently on a poll that was done, over 52% of employees don't even know what the vision of their company is. Okay. Like that's,
I can't even like stumble their way through it.
They don't even like, if you came up to them and said, what's your company about? 52% of people would be like, I don't know.
Wow.
I just don't even know. Where are they going? No clue. No clue. 63% of the employees that do know don't have a clear understanding of that vision. So they know, they're like, oh,
they know what it says, but they don't know what it means.
Yeah. We're a car rental company. Well, what's your vision? I don't know. I guess just get cars out, right? But a lot of times there's a deeper vision, a bigger picture, more than just like revenue or profit. And those things matter. Those need to be there. But it's bigger than that. And 63% of the people who do get it still are like, I don't really know what it means, but I know that's the thing. And that's what's written up on our wall. So great. 49% of employees can't tell you the company's values. So do you see the recurring theme we're starting to see here is that, does your company have value or values, core values? Of course they do. Do they have vision? Absolutely. The problem is if 52% of employees don't know the vision, the people who do know what that vision is don't know what it means, 63% of those, and then 49% don't know why you're doing what you're doing and the way you should be doing it. That's a problem. Like, that's a massive problem. And like, it's good to have your vision written out and put up on a wall. That's neat. That works out well. But at the end of the day, Helen Keller said it great. She said, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. Only thing worse than this is a blind and deaf woman saying this. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. It's
crazy. Yeah.
That should tell you something of a person who thinks very deeply.
Yeah, we could just stop the episode right there.
Yeah, right there. We've got to get to a place with vision that we're communicating this vision. Like at the culture base, we say about what we do, that one of those areas is that we help show where they're going. We help companies show where they're going. Why do you think that's such a big deal? All those statistics right there. That's why it's a big deal, is because you as a visionary hold this vision like it is this baby to your chest. It's so important to you, but then you miss it on handing it out to the rest of the team to make sure that this vision becomes a reality. And I love, there's a Japanese proverb that says that vision without action is a daydream, but action without vision is a nightmare. And I say that because there's so many of us just doing things and we're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's great for some things. But if you don't have a vision to it, you're going to become a company that is doing something that you never wanted to do. Or you're going to be a company that has a vision that never gets there. And that's the sad part. Right.
Yeah.
And I think when you do see vision catch and you see this motivation where everyone in the organization gets it, man, what you can end up doing is just phenomenal. And it reminds me, I don't know if you ever heard that story of the janitor in NASA. There's back when JFK was like, hey, by the end of this decade in the 60s, we're going to put a man on the moon and return him safely. And that was the big push. There was Apollo 1, Apollo 11. We have all those things that happened in the interim, but JFK one day was out at NASA really pushing the vision, going out to push the vision and see kind of the progress. And he came up to a guy with a broom and he said, hey, what do you do here? And his response is, I'm here to put a man on the moon. I'm here to put a man on the moon. That's when vision has caught, is when the thing that person does and the vision of what your organization or your team is about, that vision transcends the role and responsibilities of what someone does, because the bigger picture is we're putting a man on the moon.
Man, imagine if you could get that type of commitment and dedication to the bigger picture all the way down to the janitors in your organization.
Yeah.
Like the fire that we catch there is unreal.
And the accountability, downward, upward accountability of everyone knowing this is what we're about. And this is what we're going to accomplish.
Yeah. Incredible. As we talk about these building blocks of scalable teams, we're trying to paint this picture for you of a building project, right? Of a construction project, of building a home, of building this organization, building up these scalable teams, right? And so part of any building process is the foundation. And so in our foundation is where we're going to get clarity. There's these three kind of major sections of the build. And the first one is the foundational piece, which we call clarity. It's about knowing what you're about before you show where you're going. Yeah. And so we're knowing what we're about here with the first two key elements in the foundation. The first two building blocks will be vision, which we'll talk about today, and culture, which we'll talk about next week. But before we get into that, Blake, I think we need to define, I think many people have a lots of different understanding of what vision is. Every organization I've worked for gets vision and mission mixed up. They use different terminology. Let's just walk through for a second what some of those vision buzzwords are and what they mean.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There are I see vision and mission get mixed all the time. The thing is I don't care. I don't care what you define it as and if that helps you or not. But when we get into it and we talk through it, we have it our way. And so we're going to talk about it in this sense. And I'm going to give kind of definitions to these because I do think it's super important that we're all, at least on this podcast episode, we're all talking the same stuff. Okay. Yeah. So vision is simply the destination. Okay. This is just where you're going. In 3 years, here's where we want to be. In 5 years, here's where we want to be. In 10 years, exactly. The next one is the why. We hear that Simon Sinek popularized this. in his book, Start With Why. But why is the purpose or the reason that you're going on this journey? And so, I want to, as I go through this, actually, I kind of want to give this visual picture. Okay. Because I think I do better with this anyway. If we were going, if you had a family, you're going on a road trip. Okay. Vision would simply be the place you're going. So let's say we're going to Disneyland, okay, or Disney World. Our vision is to get to Disney World. Okay, that's it. We're getting to Disney World. The why or the purpose you're going is maybe more the intrinsic reason you're going. Why are we going to Disney World? So that we can have a great family time, to grow more as a family unit. We're going there to have fun and enjoy life and to get rest and reprieve from the rest of our life. That's why we're going to Disney World. Now, the mission, we're kind of coming back on here, is how you will arrive at your destination. Okay. So this is, back in the day, this was your MapQuest, right? This is, you got on, you typed it in, you planned out all your routes. So we're going to take the 1 over to 33, and we're going to take that across to 69 and take that down to, that was your mission. And mission can change, right? Like those are the little hows we get to there. All of a sudden you have a detour. Now you've got to change. But mission is how you will arrive at your destination and how you're going to get there. Okay. Are we flying? Are we driving? That's kind of the mission. The core focus is the connection and the determination to get to the destination. Okay. This is what pushes your missions. Okay. So, and by the way, core focus is a traction-based term, or EOS, that we talk about a lot. But this is going to provide discipline so that we don't get tempted by every exit that comes along our way, like world's best toenail clippers or world's best salsa. We're not just jumping off unless that's part of your mission. Right? If the mission is, hey, you have 14 hours to get to, what's Disney World, 14 hours to get there. I'm getting there in 14 hours. But if the mission is, we're going to do it in 18 so that we can enjoy those little detours. Okay, great. But the core focus is going to what keep us authentic to those things. Next is your culture. So this one is just your external environment in which you're driving through. You don't think that matters? Okay, you go from a snowy Michigan area down to Indiana, and all of a sudden it starts drying up through Kentucky, Tennessee. And like, it's the environment you're driving through. How you go through there now changes drastically. But culture is the environment in which you do it. It's also the internal environment. If we're taking this road trip, how are we getting there? Are we, we're scheduled bathroom breaks, and we're also like, hey, let's really enjoy and play these games and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's part of the culture too. And lastly is, was it core values, right? Core values are if culture is the environment, core values are the road signs. It's letting you know how to get there correctly. It's letting you know, hey, there's a 30-mile-an-hour turn coming up here that if you don't take it 30 miles an hour, you're going to fly off this cliff, right? Like, they are the warning signs that are letting you know about the environment, okay? These 6 buzzwords really, in understanding, help you understand the vision, the mission, and the will of how you're going to do anything. Okay. And today, obviously, we're digging into this vision aspect. And it's hard to talk about vision outside of the why, right? Like those first two, a vision and the why. Vision is really that mechanism through which a company operates. But the second part, the why, is the authentication, right? It's what authenticates that mechanism. That lets me know I'm going towards my vision well. And so really today, we're wanting to dig into this vision aspect because so many people are struggling with where they are going. Or they're struggling in communicating it, right? Or giving heart and why behind going towards this direction. If you're a perpetual change your vision person, which a lot of entrepreneurs are, let's go this way. Oh, it doesn't work. Now I've got a new vision. Let's go this way. You're going to burn people out. Okay. So really fleshing out a good vision that you're like, I can live with this for X amount of time, right? Like if you're like, well, we're going to Disney World, just kidding. We're going to Cedar Point, just kidding. We're going to Disneyland. Like you are going to just exhaust people and you're going to spend your whole time of the journey not getting anywhere. Okay. So it's really important that we take the time to dig into this because every one of these building blocks that we're talking about, right? The clarify, the identify and the amplify, which the clarify breaks down into the vision and culture. Every one of these building blocks, we spend a lot of time on this concept of SLD. Okay. And that's strategic, logistics, and distribution. Dustin, you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. And before I do, I want to say too, I want to say something about the why real quick. I think the why is such a key ingredient of the vision, because if you don't understand why you're going, just use your analogy, right? Why are you going to Disney World? I don't know. Someone said we should go there once. You're going to be easily distracted from getting to Disney World because it doesn't matter to you. It simply doesn't matter. If where you're going doesn't matter to you, it's that authenticity that Blake was talking about. It's connecting to that piece of, I want to go to Disney World because it's the reason why when people that have you set goals, or we use like Michael Hyatt's full focus stuff, like he always says, like, include why you want what you want, because otherwise you'll be so easily distracted from getting there. You'll never get there. You'll never get there. So the SLD stuff that Blake was talking about, strategy, logistics, and distribution. I think a lot of people struggle with where they're going. It's got to be rectified. Every one of our building blocks, of these 6 building blocks that we're going to talk about in this series, are going to come with their own set of strategy, their own set of logistics, and their own set of distribution, right? And strategy for me, Blake, is the game plan. Right. It's the game plan before we get into the game. Like we're in the heart of college football season right now. You're at Thanksgiving this week. You're watching these football games that these coaches and these teams and these franchises have been planning their strategy to win this game that you're going to watch on Thursday, that is in the background for you, that you're just halfway watching through a turkey coma. They have been planning strategy for this for like all week long, if not longer than that. All they've been thinking about is, this is going to be our game plan going into it, so that when we get into it, we can hit play and execute, which is where logistics come in, right, Blake?
Yeah, exactly. So if the strategy, like let's say for the college football or NFL, is, hey, we're playing against this team and they are a heavy run team and they hit 8 yards every carry, then our strategy is stop the run. That's our strategy. Okay, what are our logistics? Logistics become the things that we're going to set up, that we're going to make sure we do. They are the parts that say, this is how this strategy is successful. It's the how. Okay, well, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have DeForest Buckner in on 3 out of the 4 sets of every 4 downs. We're going to have
use your players accordingly.
Exactly. We're going to have so-and-so in. We're going to play this style of defense. That's how we're going to do it. So that becomes the logistics, is how do we do this thing? And then the distribution. Sorry, that was a setup. I threw a lot up.
It sounded like you were saying a sentence and that you were going to finish the sentence. And I was like, did he freeze?
Whoa.
And then the distribution.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I was like, is it me? Is it you? I don't know. I was all leaned into what you were saying. Why don't you take it?
Yeah. Okay, fine. So the distribution is,
I was like, yeah, give it to me.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm in. So the distribution, so the logistics is how we're going to do it. The distribution is making sure that everyone who has a hand in this is part of it, to making sure that it's being communicated well, that everyone knows their role and is playing their role. And we're going to execute it over and over and verify that it's happening that way. So often, and I'm going to get away from the college football discussion here for a second. So often when we get into a new process, let's say, we don't take this SLD mentality. What we end up doing is just taking the S and maybe a little L, right? Like, what's our strategy for this new process? Oh, we need a new process because we need this. Great. Here are all the things that we can do. Awesome. Let's make sure this happens. Write it out. Now it's on a piece of paper. Where are we putting that paper? End of story. It makes it nowhere. Doesn't make it to the people who need to know how to execute the strategy and why they're executing the strategy in the first place. If you just expect your frontline guys to understand what's happening and you don't tell them what the strategy is or the logistics, sorry, back to football again. You don't tell them, and now we're back in. And we don't tell them what their role is, that they're going to be playing 3 out of the 4 sets. And then all of a sudden you get to game day and you haven't communicated that, nothing's going to happen.
They're not ready.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have to call timeouts because they're not in on the right set because you didn't communicate that over and over so that they said, I know exactly what's expected of me. You want to know a good distribution? That's what people say is, I know what's expected of me. If they come in and you say, hey, what's the vision of our company? And they can't get to the point where they know what's expected of them in the connection of that vision of your company, then you haven't done your distribution well. And I don't mean that this is a one-time thing. Like I said, I felt like, when we finally did this vision day again with our executive team, I felt connection again, which means I hadn't been doing a good job in the distribution of the vision, right? We communicate it once in a while or here now and then. And then there were aspects of our vision that aren't even part of it anymore and felt inauthentic when we would say it. And so it's just a great way to get back to that so that everyone says, I know what's expected of me to get to this vision.
Yeah, I love that. So we're going to spend the remainder of the few minutes that we have with you on this episode talking about, now that we've kind of laid the groundwork for what strategy, logistics, and distribution looks like, we're going to spend the rest of this episode talking about strategy, logistics, and distribution, specifically when it comes to the building block of vision. And let me say this as we enter into strategy for vision. I know many of you may be listening to this and you're like, look, I'm not a startup. We kind of had, I maybe inherited a vision that I don't connect with. We may have always had this vision around and people know it, but no one really knows what it means. Listen, it's never too late to kind of clarify. I'm going to use one of our words. It's never too late to clarify the vision. It's never too late to clarify the vision. You're never too far gone here. You can start today clarifying where you're going with your team, and you will see very quickly they will be grateful for it. They will thank you verbally for, wow, I never knew that. Thank you. It makes so much more sense now. Things are beginning to click. What else about strategy here, Blake?
Yeah, to say to that real quick, that's so important, I think, to hit a why here on that strategy. Over 68% of people who didn't know the vision or did know the vision or whatever, over 68% of those people did want to know. They did want to know what it was all about.
Yeah, they did.
They did connect to it. And the thing that's so crazy about this, and I won't get too deep into the generational differences, but every generational people, I don't even know every generational group or whatever. Yeah. The boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, the Gen Zs, all of them want to be a part of it. And maybe in a different way. And maybe they define that in a different way, but they all really want to be a part of it. Every one of them. And I hear this all the time. Well, millennials, they're different because they care about purpose. And I agree with that. But every one of these generations cares about purpose.
Yeah, everybody does.
And so vision is part of the purpose. It is the direction of the purpose. And so if you don't have strategy to communicate that stuff, it becomes a big deal that and you're missing a really low-hanging fruit of just bringing people into the fold, which actually kind of takes to the next part of strategy is having feedback and discussion within your strategy. Okay, now be selective here. I'm not saying get every single person in your company in to define what your vision is. Maybe that's not the case. And sometimes I think it's good to come in with what your vision is and then get feedback from it. And the good part about feedback in that process is that it starts to create ownership. And when people have ownership of the vision, they treat it differently. Okay, they don't treat it like it's somebody else's kid. They treat it like it's their kid.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the janitor at NASA for a second while you were saying who is included on the feedback and strategy, right? Had NASA said, we're not sure what we're gonna do here, what do you think, janitor? And he would be like, I would like this other kind of cleaner instead of this kind of cleaner because I think it cleans better. Mm-hmm. But instead they said, hey, janitor, our vision here is to get to the moon. What do you think about that? He's like, well, and in order to do that, we're going to need a really clean facility. You see the difference?
Yeah.
It's no longer about I can use Windex over ammonia, this other ammonia. And it's more about just in order for us to get there, our facility is going to have to be maintained with excellence.
Yeah. these software developers and engineers are going to work late hours, and they need to have a place where when they go and use the restroom or they see the facilities, that they're inspired and not brought down by disorganization
or distracted.
Yeah. They need clarity, and man,
so the ownership now for that janitor is that when he cleans the facility, he's helping them get to the moon.
That's right.
Man. It's no longer just about like, well, I like to clean this. It's no longer about it's not about the cleaning anymore. It's about the bigger picture. And for the engineers, same way. It's not about the code. It's not about all the things they're putting together. It's about the bigger picture of getting to the moon. They have a roadmap, right? Yeah. That's what strategy is. Strategy is providing a roadmap of where we're going. We talked about that when we talked about what actual like strategy in general looks like. This is where it really looks like for the vision, is that you have a roadmap for where you're going. You have a roadmap to get to Disney World. Yeah. You know exactly what it looks like to get there, essentially, right?
Yeah. And our, we got the 6 building blocks, and I keep saying that because I want this to start ingraining in our heads, are these 6 building blocks of vision, culture, attraction, onboarding, development, and retention. And as we look at those 6 building blocks of a scalable team, understanding that we have to create this roadmap in every strategy. And I think what's important about this roadmap is that it's not a proverbial roadmap. It's a visual roadmap.
Yeah, it's literal.
So important. You know what's so important about vision is that you see. What better way to create a visual for vision, right?
Someone goes, I'm a visual learner. Great, because we have a visual vision.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, I really just have to see things. And you're like, great, here's 32 pages on our vision. And don't worry, it's single spaced in front and back. No, give them a quick, simple visual for knowing where we're going. So the mapping out needs to be visual. And in every one of our building blocks, I promise, and if we ever work with you, we will make sure this is a visual thing that your team can easily see. Hey, here's how we attract people. Hey, here's how we onboard people. Oh, how do we develop people long-term? This is how. And there's a visual that automatically engages your brain and puts you on the right path to the very first building block of vision. Yeah. We see the bigger picture.
Yeah. So the next step here after strategy, Blake, is logistics. Let's talk about that for a second.
Logistics, man, I think this gets hard, because this is when you're like, man, I already said that though. Why didn't they catch that? I said it. Why didn't they hear me? Because it takes people 7 times before they really hear something and for it to sink in. And for them to, honestly, if you're a visionary and an entrepreneurial visionary, you probably say things once and then you jump around so many times in your head that you're saying so many things that people don't trust what you say. Okay. So to simply put it there, until they hear it 7 times, they're probably not trusting that it's real. Okay. Until they hear that you're hitting the same note every time, they don't believe you're really going to play a song. Okay. So it's time to make sure you're hitting those multiple times of saying something, at least 7 times. But then another thing is saying it in multiple channels. Okay. And maybe multiple platforms for different generational groups here. How do you say things to the baby boomer and the Gen Xer or the millennial? And you're like, man, that shouldn't matter. It should just be however I say it, because that's all that really matters. No, it doesn't. It matters very much how you communicate it to them, because true communication only matters when you know how somebody else receives something. And if it's just about how you say it, then you need to just go do speeches instead of do this business thing. Okay. Because how you receive something and how they receive it's more important. So, you just got to say things over and over.
Yeah, it's a key part of leadership. And I love an indicator too that I tell leaders often. They're like, well, how do I know when I've said it enough? 7 times, is that right? Like if I have to go to 8, then it's, you know what I mean? Like 7 times is a great indicator, but I would say an internal and a great external indicator. I would say a good internal communicator as a leader is when you begin to be sick of hearing yourself saying it. You're like so annoyed. Like you get out of bed in the morning, you're like, if I have to say that phrase one more time today, when you feel that way, that is when those that you're leading are just beginning to hear it for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating, but it's the truth of the matter. And so if you can understand and embrace that truth, just go like, huh, yeah, I'm mad that I have to say that again.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, that means they're hearing it. You know what I mean? Like, you see the difference there.
Yeah.
That, like, that's the type of thing you need to learn, that they're just beginning to hear when you get sick of it. That's a key indicator for you. And that's the logistics
Yep.
of communicating your vision. That's logistics.
So if strategy is mapping it out, like, hey, one of the aspects of this vision is communication, then logistics breaks down, okay, well, one of those stepping stones of communication is I break it down. Yep, break it down. It breaks down underneath
if
that.
You're watching on YouTube, it's like 3D now.
When you break it down underneath communication, it's communicate this on the chat-based platforms, communicate this via email, communicate this, go give them a call and have a discussion about it, right? Like, you're breaking it down into those strategies. The distribution is now making sure you communicate it in that way, right? So the how was, we're going to do all these things. The distribution is communicating it to that way and making sure you have feedback loops to make sure it is being communicated. Just passing this along, hey guys, go ahead and tell this to your team, does not do the same thing as verifying with data that this is happening. Hey, did we do this? We didn't. I don't see it happening. Means we didn't do it. We need to make sure we're doing it. You know, one of the things we have going on right now, for example, at Ridgeline, is we've been having issues trying to get time cards weekly and following up on the right cost codes. And so one of the things is we will know it's done when it's in the daily report that this was done. And so all we have to do is look at the daily report and be like, it's not happening. It's not happening. Oh, it's happening here, here, and here, but not here. Okay, now we know where to make sure the distribution, we go focus that energy. Instead of doing a big blast again, hey, everyone, remember to do your cost codes, that flies over everyone's head. Now we go to the people who are struggling and we say, hey, I'm not seeing this. This is part of our process, right? Do you remember? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Okay, well, I want to see it tomorrow. And I'm going to check in with you every day. And then you start creating that distribution of making sure that happens over and over. So communicating to their platform style and liking. And I know visionaries don't like doing this, but I want you to see it like it's how you communicate to a kid. Sometimes it's easier to just believe I can talk to them about quantum physics at this high level because I have understanding and I've grown to these great points. And it's just easier to say the word quantum physics than have to define what it is.
Yeah, you don't have to give them illustrations or similes or anything like that.
But your people who are entry level don't have all that emergent understanding that you've grown in. They don't have that yet. So you have to go back and start explaining it simply and simply and simply. And when you can explain it that way, they get it. They get it.
Yeah. It's like Oscar on The Office when he explains to Michael what a surplus is. And he goes, imagine you have a lemonade stand, you know, and your parents give you $10 to run this lemonade stand. And you buy cups and you buy lemons and sugar and, well, you know, all this other stuff, right? He's like, but you find out it only costs you $9 to run a lemonade stand. You know, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but then you go like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. You know what I mean? And that's why
how you receive it.
Right. It's about how you receive it. Everybody knows that Michael Scott needed to be talked to like he was a kid.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that. Now, obviously, don't do it in a demeaning way, like they were doing it for comedy relief, right? Their vision was to make you laugh, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, you need to treat it with respect, is what I'm saying. That's all.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I do think that this won't sound popular, but if you want to be a good leader, I think you've got to be a good storyteller. Mm-hmm. And I don't think being a good storyteller is something that only certain people are born with. I think it's something that you can practice and get better at. It is a learned skill.
Absolutely.
Being a good storyteller helps people believe in the values you talk about, helps people believe in the vision. Instead of you just saying, our vision is to hit 3.2 million after this year. And no, when you start hitting the vision at a higher level and you're like, hey, I want to tell you a story, or you don't even have to say, I want to tell you a story, but you can say like, hey, it's really important to us that we build trust through candor. And so I want to tell you about this time that I had to say something really hard to someone and I knew it was a make or break. and they made it and blah, blah, blah. And you start telling this story and it invigorates people because now they want that building trust through candor because they see that growth happens out of it. And so like, that's why it becomes important to storytell rather than to use corporate jargon. Corporate jargon is an automatic off switch in people's brains.
Yeah.
I swear, you say the word synergy to me, you lost it. Okay.
So tell me about
synergy. The synergy between pass. Just pass.
It's a new synergy. Are you saying news energy? I'm lost.
30 Rock.
That's from 30 Rock. Yeah. I take it back, Blake, to going to Disney World. That same thing that we talked about at the beginning, right? Like if you tell your kids we're going to Disney World and you spill out some corporate jargon that you found on Disney World's website, they're like, well, okay. Yeah. Well, okay, whatever. But if you're like, imagine what it's going to be like when you're floating in the air riding that Dumbo ride. You know what I mean? You see the difference? Like it's just I'm putting you in the picture. I'm inserting you into the story of what success looks like.
Yep.
So if you're, multi-million-dollar company, imagine what it looks like for you as a part of this team when we hit 50 million in sales.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And let that emotion sink in. We have to be tied emotionally to the vision, or it won't matter to us. And stories evoke emotion, plain and simple. Stats typically don't evoke emotion. They can evoke pain a little bit. They can evoke frustration, but they're not going to evoke the type of emotion that you want to be attracted or associated with your vision.
Yeah. Yeah. They're more adders to the emotion. Right.
Adders. Yeah. I like adders. That's a good word. All right. Cool. I feel like we have done our due diligence here on strategizing and coming up with logistics and distribution for vision. Next episode, we're going to get into our second building block that's also a part of the foundation of clarifying or foundation of clarity. And that is going to be culture. And you're like, well, duh, you're the culture base. Yes. So we're going to get real culturally nerdy with you coming up on our next episode. I hope y'all have an amazing Thanksgiving. Remember, if anything that we're talking about here today resonates with you, or you're like, man, I need help with that. I need help strategizing this whole vision thing, or planning out the logistics, or figuring out the best distribution for our vision. We would love to have a 30-minute, wait for it, strategy session for free with you. If you go to theculturebase.com, click on strategy, we'd love to be able to meet with you, talk with you, help you figure out how you can know what you're about, show where you're going, and build scalable teams to get there. We'll talk to you next time. Have an amazing Thanksgiving break, and we'll be back next Tuesday on the Culture Base podcast.